Hello and welcome to the first ever Inside Tack podcast. My name is Freddie Carr and I am very lucky that I've been involved in the America's Cup for over 20 years, racing for 6 different teams, giving me a really interesting perspective on how the sport has developed over that time. And I'm currently a Cyclor for INEOS Britannia here in Barcelona. The aim of this podcast is to give you, the listener, a real insight into how we're getting ready for the 37th America's Cup that is happening in just 6 months' time. We're also going to be touching base with the Emirates Great Britain Sail GP team, our Youth America's Cup squad, and our Women's America's Cup team that's getting ready for the first ever Women's America's Cup here in Barcelona. So let's start this episode by touching base with some gold medal winners, and we are very lucky to be joined by 3 that I get to rub shoulders with every day here in Barcelona. So today we are super lucky to have with us Giles Scott, MBE, 2-time Olympic gold medal winner. Saskia Clark, very hard to talk to the camera with you in my eyeline like that, but I'm trying. Saskia Clark, gold and silver medal winner. MBE? MBE. Matt Gotrel MBE. I know you're an MBE because Neil Hunter says Matt Gotrel MBE every day.
On a regular basis.
On a regular basis.
It's quite nice. You don't get to use that title very often.
No.
I get reminded about it every day. Yeah.
Do you have it on your Instagram-y stuff?
No.
Giles? Giles Scott MBE on Instagram or not?
Maybe.
If I had stuff like that, like if I'd won an Olympic gold medal, and just for the record, I have not, I would have it everywhere. I'd like have T-shirts made up.
We'd all know about it.
You would all know about it if I'd won an Olympic gold medal, but I haven't. I think the best I've ever done in my dinghy sailing is I went back to back Hailing Island Youth Week topper champion in 93, 94.
Epic.
So, which is all right, right? Which is all right. Anyway, we digress. We're here in Barcelona, as I said. We're in our fantastic studio, and we're going to talk through Olympic campaigning and how that translates into America's Cup performance and the first ever Women's America's Cup performance. So the first section, the first questions, we're going to get to know you guys a little bit better, more in general around the Olympics. My first question to all of you is, where'd you keep the medals? Sass, where'd you keep the medals?
Mine now currently actually are in a safe, but they have long time lived in socks, in the boot of my car or in a sock drawer at home, or I haven't known where they might be.
Really?
Occasionally, yeah.
You don't wear them like B.A. Baracas from the A-team?
I mean, I think you've got like a 2-week window post-games where you can do that to the
Really? It's not
local
like
shop.
It's not a 4-year window.
Every nightclub you go to, especially if you're with a few of our old teammates,
really?
Luke and Stu Bithell,
Is that a
would
thing?
wear them out forever.
Do you bling them out to get in Mexico, like those posh nightclubs in London?
We had some fun time after London where it was for 2 weeks, it was fine and we could get in everywhere. And then Luke and Stu, our teammates from London who won a silver, were still, like 3 weeks later, and they're like, no, your moment's gone.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's savage. Shrekky, how about you? Where is it?
I played the sock game for a while. Yeah.
What is it with medal? Don't you get a nice little case?
Yeah, the case is quite bulky though.
Oh, really?
And also, you end up taking out quite a lot to go and like show kids at schools and stuff. So easy accessible in a sock. But now I've upgraded now because obviously I say you got a 2-week window where you wear it all the time. Then you've probably got like a few years where you're still getting out. Now it just no one cares about it, so it's on the wall.
And do you get like nervous giving it to little tackers to wear at a school assembly that they might peg it off or something?
Not too much. I think you have a few occasions where you kind of get a bit lax, and then the worst thing is when you see people like the winners biting their medals.
Right.
You're like, oh, that's cool, and you give it to some kid,
And they do the
and
bite.
like teeth marks in it.
I went and
It's
opened a
quite
tennis
soft.
centre and the kids had it, and I could, at the corner of my eye, about sort of 50 metres away, I saw my medal being swung round and
Really?
and my silver medal's got like a little chunk, and the kids were like...
And did you
my
style it
medals,
out?
My medals are trashed.
Are they actually?
I think you have a choice to make if you're going to keep this pristine medal and no one can touch it, or you're like, actually just hand it around the nightclub, the party, the primary school, and everyone has a go. And mine
you
show
were the
that.
latter, obviously.
Yeah, because it's fun, it's cool.
Gilo, are you a pristine medal man, or are you swinging it around a nightclub?
The Rio one is battered, but I think we got offered replacements.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Because there was like a manufacturing default with them.
Is it proper gold? I'd never known.
Plated. I think they're made of silver.
Yeah, they're silver.
Solid silver and then gold plated. Yeah, but mine's knackered as well. It's gone like green.
Yeah.
I mean,
That means
none-
we've had fun with
isn't
them.
it?
And
It
we,
does
like,
mean
yeah.
you've had fun with
Yeah.
them. And there's been a lot of hard work gone into getting them. I don't know. As I said, I'd just wear them all the time, to be honest. I think
They're actually really heavy and uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm pretty strong. So
Yeah, I remember waking up the morning after the first night I won it. I'd worn it all night, and my neck was in agony. I was like, "Why is my neck hurt?" I was like, "Yeah, I've been wearing half a kilo around it all night."
half a kilo.
Yeah.
So let's just have a little recap. Shrekky, I'm going to call you Shrekky, and obviously Matt Gotrel, but looks like Shrek from Disney. Or
That's
Pixar,
not
or whatever.
why the nickname's there. But
Why is the nickname
I
there?
don't know, but I'm not going to say it's because I look like Shrek, am I?
You do look a bit like
All
Shrek.
right, thanks. Yeah.
You're obviously different to the other two. Got your gold medal in rowing in the 8 in Rio.
Yeah.
So
A bit different.
bit different.
I think people kind of forget in my journey as well. I started off as a
You
sailor.
were a sailor.
Yeah.
That's right.
Very young, kind of into the Olympic cycle with sailing wise, and then thought I should go and get a degree, and that's when I started rowing. So I started rowing when I was like 21, and then did 6 years. Ended up in Rio with a few familiar faces.
Yes.
And then-
In fact, you all got gold medals in Rio.
Yeah.
Love that.
And
Is that late to get into rowing as a 21-year-old?
I think it's getting more common. There's a few of us actually who kind of started rowing at the same time at university, coming from other sports. I think because it's quite essentially if you've got an engine and you're relatively fit from any sport, you can kind of transfer it if you're willing to. And also a lot of rowers at schools do it because they can't do anything else. Like they can't catch or throw, so they get put into rowing. But I think you either have the schoolboy rowers who go through it there, or people who come into it quite late.
I remember speaking with a few of your teammates. They said you did it perfectly.
Why is
Right.
that?
Got
Why is
in,
that?
got out.
Yeah,
You were one and done, weren't you?
They're quite
One
jealous,
Olympic
Got in,
cycle.
got out. In
So-
late.
You knew.
Out
You
early.
knew as soon as you got that gold medal, you were like, perfect.
Not
Can't-
quite. I mean, it's quite nice knowing that you're like at that point, and for the next 4 years, you are like the best in the world.
Yeah.
So it's quite hard to then be like, no, I'm just going to walk away. But essentially, that's what I did. Yeah, yeah. I had a bit of advice from some guys who had been there and done it, and there's not much else in rowing apart from the Olympics. So
Yeah, right.
once you've done that, it's kind of it was all kind of ready to move on. And to be honest with you, when I was a kid, sailing was my passion as well. So it sounds bad when you've got an Olympic or medal in rowing to be like, well, it can't happen by accident. But I got into the sport by accident.
That kind of jars. That leads me on to my next question with you. So Matt went in, did, sort of 6 years work, nailed an Olympiad, got a gold medal, reached for the lasers in Rio, and that was him as he transitioned back into sailing. How is it for you missing out on qualification for London 2012, really, really closely with Ben, but then ultimately achieving your dream of a lifetime to get your gold medal in Rio, and then having to go, right, I want to do this again, I want to reset and move into that second Olympic cycle? What does that second Olympic cycle feel like?
It was weird. I mean, especially with it being the COVID one as well, because it was on, then it was off, and I kind of thought, well, actually, maybe it's not even going to happen, and then it was suddenly back on again. But I think, comparing my two goals between Rio and Tokyo, Rio's the one that I think I'll hold closer, because it was kind of a lot. It was almost perfect in inverted commas, because I kind of felt like I nailed everything there. Whereas with Tokyo, I was clinging on.
It was exciting to
I
watch.
managed to cling on, but I was doing just that.
It was exciting to watch that Tokyo one, bud.
But yeah, the whole going again was. I mean, it almost didn't happen. I had a few decisions to make, not like around the cup, and also some potential early involvement in Sail GP, and I went through 2 or 3, maybe 4 months where actually I wasn't doing Tokyo, and then I decided I kind of really wanted to do it. So yeah, they were very, very different. But one thing I did gain a lot of appreciation for was all those multiple medal winners, like
the
your Redgraves, Ainsley,
yeah.
Just to do it more than twice, not for me.
Yeah, okay.
But
That's very
But
honest.
then maybe my second was effectively more like my third campaign, but with 2 Olympics. So maybe that's not quite fair.
Do you know what blew my mind about you going into Tokyo? She hardly sailed a fin. Like, we were doing the America's Cup in Auckland, and
Yeah.
you weren't really fin sailing, buddy.
No.
And then the day after we did our final race in Auckland, you were wheels up and out of there to go to a training camp, and the rest of us went on the lash for 3 weeks.
3 days in the Coromandel in a Land Rover I had, and then I was on a flight.
That's
yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. In fact,
But-
I was on holiday with the family, and we drove past you on the
Yeah.
road, and I was really dusty, trying not to be. I was trying to be a good dad. But you were already training for
I
the
was
games.
training on my bike in
yeah,
the
that's
rain.
right. In the rain.
Yeah, I
and we
was.
stopped and you went, "You're right, Giles."
Hardcore me, I know.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
pretty impressive, that.
But when we went down to New Zealand, Matt, my coach, we was like, got to try and keep this Olympic sailing up and going, and took 2 fins down there.
That's right.
Cornish, who's he's one of the sailors here at INEOS as well. My old training partner from Rio, got him a boat together. I had this pipe dream that we were going to, join the local sailing club, which we did. Have the boats rigged up, and any spare moment we'd be out training. And we went, like, I think it was twice we went, and we went down, and it was just felt like we were going through the motions, like out for an hour. Had like an hour spare in the day. Go down, rig the boats, head out. And after the second training session that we did, we had like a meal in the yacht club afterwards. And I said to Cornish, like, this is a waste of time. There's absolutely no point in doing this. And we packed the boats up, and it got curbed, and kind of had to speak to Matt and just say, look, we've got to deal with this after the Cup.
But when you landed back in Olympic World from that Cup World, it must have been so different in that Rio cycle. You were so good for the whole cycle, dominant, and you must have felt like you were, those last 6 months, treading water, wanted the Olympics to happen.
Yeah,
did
totally.
You? And then this cycle was like frantic. The energy you must have had going into that last 6 months must have been pretty cool.
It was, but it was completely falsified energy, because it wasn't until after Tokyo that I realised how rooted I was. I was completely spent. Shreky and Freds, you know how spent we were after that Cup campaign. And I just somehow convinced myself that it didn't affect me and I was fine and I was all good to go. But yeah, after Tokyo, I was broken for months. Yeah.
First race in Rio, day one, compared to first race in Tokyo, day one. Where were you at, like, confidence levels, like, going into that regatta? Would you say you were, like, similar sort of place, or were you kind of a bit more unknown?
Both my first races were utter crap.
Yeah.
Before
You
the-
really
before
were.
the-
I remember that in
So
Rio.
underwhelming.
He loves it.
Our talisman goes out for day one in Rio, and we're like, oh, Giles.
Yeah, got a yellow flag in the second last or something. By day 3 in Rio, I'd kind of sorted my crap out, but I had that real bad race hanging over me. In fact, when I bumped into you at the opening ceremony, I remember thinking all week, because the thing about the Olympics is you're competing in your sport, and sailing, it's over 6-7 days. It's a proper week, and you're watching all these other sports on the TV, and they feel like they just go in flashes, and a lot of them do. And I remember speaking to you at that do in wherever it was, that really nice
British
place.
House or whatever
yeah,
it was,
it was out the back of Rio in this real nice spot. And I very quickly got the impression from all of you rowers that the gold was theirs as long as they could execute their numbers and not,
Really?
Of course, you got to nail
binary. It felt that binary.
It's
Well,
so
to me it did.
it's so different as a sport as well when you come from, like, the sailing world, where it lasts like a week. There's so many variables. You got different conditions every day. Essentially, we have a race, and it's, whatever it is that day, those are the conditions. It's the same for every boat, and then it's a race in your own lane. Really, it doesn't matter what the other boats are doing. So if you can go and row well, it's like execute your plan that you know you can do because you've trained for it. And
But Rio was
Good
the sea state in Rio was quite tricky for you guys.
there were some
wasn't it?
pretty terrible days. Thankfully, the 8, because we only have 7 entries, so that kind of helps your chances of winning as well. But we won our heat on the Monday, and then didn't have our final till the Saturday.
And that was super unusual. It's normally in 3 days or something.
It kind of depends on the event, but if you win, you go straight through to the final because there's that many entries. So some of the other boats, like the doubles, singles, they'll be racing like every other day. And they got really caught out with the weather in the middle because there was like boats capsizing, like Olympics, boats capsizing in the middle of the course. We went paddling one day and like it took 20 of us to lift the boat out because it was just full of water. And
that was that day that the 470
We
feet got blown to bits.
Oh, when the big squall came through, like at 1 o'clock.
Yeah. We were training and there was just boats everywhere. Like they closed the lake, but we were already out there. And Jürgen was like, "Keep going."
Yeah.
Do you know what really resonates with me listening to you guys regale your stories of the Olympics? Is you remember like every single day, every single half day, every single.
Hannah Mills doesn't actually.
Oh really?
No, she can be quite frustrating. She's like, oh yeah, you remember that race when that happened, and it's like the same, and we should really remember that for next time because it's happened. And she's like. You don't remember it, do you?
I haven't got a clue what you're going on about, Sass. So, Sass, you got your gold medal. You got your silver medal with Hannah in London or Weymouth down the road. And then obviously went and those amazing scenes I remember from you guys sailing up onto the beach and getting the Union Jack out. That was unbelievable for me as a sailing fan, watching you guys do that. And particularly for you, sort of, you went in 08 and it was frustrating. You were great and it was frustrating. And in London, you could have got a medal from the medal race, but...
Yeah, we went into the medal race, equal points with gold, and came away... guaranteed silver, equal points with gold, and came away with silver. So London was a bit
And
of
how
a
did that
double-edged.
feel?
I mean, in the initial bit, it's hard not to just be awesome. Well, actually, no, initially we crossed the line, Hannah burst into tears, and we had to have...
With happiness or sadness?
Gutted, because we actually had
obviously,
control of the pre-start. We sort of engaged a bit and had control of it, and we just got locked in and couldn't follow our competitors, so we couldn't mark them. And I said we'd done quite a lot of practice of that sort of medal racing, match racing stuff, but actually match racing with 10 boats is quite different to match racing with our little training group was actually only 3 or 4 boats that we'd done it. So that was a lesson that we had to find, in that pre-Rio stuff, had to find a bigger fleet to practice our match racing with. And so, but then all your friends and I had all my schoolmates, all my uni mates, all my sailing club mates, all my family were on the hill in Weymouth.
On the nose, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you sort of very quickly get wrapped up in a medal ceremony, a big party. It was amazing. And then after that, we had to sort of think, it took us a year to decide to go again, really.
Oh, really? That long?
Yeah, we both...
That wasn't fuel to the fire, like, we're going to go and get that gold medal?
On the toe in,
okay.
We were like, we're going to go and do this, going to smash them, like, blah, blah, blah. And then, actually, it's exhausting. You have, like, 3 months of just wind down. And then it feels like a big mountain to get back, getting back on the bike feels like a big effort. You're not fit anymore. Do you want to put everything on the line again? Do you want to pause your life again? And eventually, we kept one of us would come back and be like, right, we're going to go and do it. And the other was like, nah, not this month. And it took us, we bought tickets to Rio for training camp in the October 2013, the year after the games. Yeah. And that was the first time we were like, let's go and do this, when we were actually in Rio, in the venue.
And did you feel more pressure going into Rio because of the silver medal, or?
No, I feel quite lucky in all my Olympics. There's always been someone to...
Why'd you look at Giles?
to be like, he's the one that's going to take the pressure.
So Giles kind of waved the flag a bit for British sailing.
Obviously in London, Ben was there, 4-time gold medalist, and he's like a household name by that point in time anyway. Yeah. And it's not like we were piling the pressure on Giles. Like I don't mean that.
Did you feel that?
But I just mean as a sailing team.
Were you aware of that?
Stuff.
Yeah, I was aware, mate.
Consciously, like, did they put that on you?
No, not from the team.
But that was your first Olympics, so.
But I mean, he's like, you were like 4-time world champion at that point in time, weren't you?
Won a bit.
Well, yeah, because I'd had like in the Rio cycle, I was beaten in one regatta where I finished second. That's kind of what I said earlier about it being. It felt like my perfect cycle.
Yeah.
Which it kind of results-wise nearly was.
I remember we're at the Old America's Cup base in Portsmouth just before you flew out. And I was thinking, oh, it's going to be the last time I see Giles before. And we'd worked together for like 6 years in various cup teams. And I was like, oh, I want to say something like super meaningful before he goes. And I got it so wrong.
I remember
Classic
actually.
Yeah.
Oh, what was it?
I know,
No,
and
I
you
don't remember. Of course I don't.
You're an idiot. But I remember it to this day. We were stood in the car park and you were just about to drive off on your Volvo or whatever. I was like, hey, Giles, you're really inspiring and you haven't lost a regatta for ages, so don't mess it up. And you just kind of looked at me and like, what the hell are you going on about? It was like, I was trying to have a moment with you and you were just like, oh yeah, see you later, friends. This is awkward. Anyway, that's a story for another time. Hey, moving on. We're obviously, as I keep referencing, hurtling towards the America's Cup. So what do you think you learn Shrekkie, you've come out the ROA youth system as well. What do you think translates for good or for bad out of your mindset and your processes through Olympic sailing that puts you in sort of good stead going into America's Cup world? And I'll caveat that by saying you look across the America's Cup community and 10 to 15 years ago, there was a smattering of Olympic sailors in the America's Cup when we were in the old IACC class boats. And now 80% of the afterguard are from the Olympics. So first question, what do you bring with you from your Olympic mindset, for good or for bad? And secondly, why has there been that transition? Start with you, Shrek.
Yeah, it's a bit different one. I guess for me, I didn't spend as long like in the RA as was in like the Olympic program as a kid, I guess. But I think I have some things that I took from sailing into rowing, which I don't think a lot of athletes in that world had, which was the thing that's kind of drilled into you as a kid is like controlling the controllables and like having the amount of variables that we do in sailing and going into a world where rowing, where it's basically just you and a rowing machine for most of it. I think being able to kind of not worry about certain things that lots of people get stressed out about, like what other people were doing, especially in training when you can sit next to someone on a rowing machine. People would get so worked up about other boats and in rowing as well, you spend half the year competing against your teammates, then get selected, and then you end up rowing in those same boats with each other. So for half the year, people are just on edge, just worried about everyone. So I think bringing that into them was one of the biggest assets that I had coming from sailing, which I didn't know about or appreciate at the time.
But I would say I would flip that with your rowing mentality. When you joined us for the last America's Cup, you brought such a calm demeanour to your training. You were so methodical around, this is what I've got programmed for the week. I'm just going to tick it off. Your numbers are your number, which is a phrase we've used a lot. And we were kind of quite a scatty training group, and you came in and you just brought such a nice level from British rowing into our mindset. It was great.
Yeah, that was the thing I was going to say. So what I brought back in sailing with me from rowing is probably that like discipline of training. And I think the sport changed quite a lot from like in terms of the human performance side of it for like the America's Cup. So you can see you've been there and you've lived it, like going from sitting on a bench press lifting weights to now doing 20 hours in the gym a week.
Yes,
it's very
sad, really, isn't it?
It's a very different kind of athlete now. And I think that lent its way, well, what I learned from rowing as well, and that sort of discipline it takes to train every day, like take it one session at a time and have trust in the program. I think, again, it's one of those things you can't necessarily worry about all the other things that go on, all the noise outside. You just got to focus on what are the things you need to do today well. And is it going to make you like 1% better? And you just do that day after day, and it's like accumulation of gains, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sass, you've come from you're a double hander, but with your coach, you're a team of three, and now you're going into the Women's America's Cup, and you sit alongside INEOS Britannia. So there's kind of 180 people on site. Do you think it's also quite tough to transition from that super focused on yourself mindset to then going, oh my goodness, I'm going to rub shoulders with 180 people today who are going to try and make this boat go fast?
I mean, this is my second week on the base, and it's mind-blowing, all the elements of the INEOS Britannia team and the number of people and stuff. And definitely in that Olympic world, you are your own CEO, your CFO, your marketing manager, and the athlete kind of thing. And so I think a lot of us come out of Olympic sailing a bit control freaky, a bit micromanagers probably, and actually just letting stuff go a bit, letting the experts do their expert stuff, whether it's on the human preparation side, the boat preparation side, etc. And but I mean, this is a learning experience for me. You know, I've I left Olympic sailing in 2016 and have done a sort of big boat sailing since. And I guess one of the real luxuries in Olympic sailing is how coached you get. How you get a lot of input from coaching, and when you move into that big boat world, you're sort of just reliant on everyone doing their own coaching themselves, but you don't necessarily know what that looks like, or if people are doing that or pulling their weight, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I find that a bit frustrating. And you know, in those programs,
Do you have to bite your tongue?
well, you need really good leadership, I guess, from whether whoever is going to be that leader, whether it's if it's the owner, the tactician, or the boat manager, or whoever it was. And I think it's like from that side, I think it's fascinating, all these like big teams with like 20 sailors on them, how you get that leadership and that sort of buy-in and that ownership of all the different parts that creates a team that is, all the parts, what is it the saying, is stronger than its parts. A team has to be stronger than its parts.
There you go.
Yeah.
And Giles, I'm going to chuck the question to you, and I think you're the perfect guy to ask this to, because you, for me, came in as you came in to early on into the 2013 cycle with Team Korea, then joined Luna Rossa. And you were very much a guy who got into the America's Cup because of their credentials within the Olympic sailing circuit, whereas previously people in your position would have got in because of their performance on the World Match Racing Tour, kind of their big boat nous and all of that. And you've kind of been through a decade where you've seen more and more Olympic style sailors come into the America's Cup world. Why do you think there's been that shift? Is it as simple because as the boats have developed, or what? What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, how I got into the Cup, as you touched on there, was first through Team Korea and then followed up quickly by getting a job at Luna Rossa with yourself. And the timing, firstly, for me personally, was on the Cup side perfect.
Why is that?
Because I'd just failed to qualify for the Olympic Games 2012. Committed to doing training with Ben for his run up into 2012, but actually had quite a lot of free time and had done a good enough job taking it toe to toe with Ben through the trials process that I'd effectively got my name around town, as it were, a little bit. So I managed to get a few gigs in the Cup world, and it kind of spiraled from there. And I managed to surf that kind of the new dawn of sailors involved in the America's Cup, being, I suppose at the time younger and predominantly from Olympic background. And I think there's two things there. There's the Olympic world was a great place for teams to look because of how competitive it is, even though it wasn't that necessarily relevant to where the sport was going. But actually at the time, very, very little was, and anything that was relevant with foiling moths or ACAT sailing was kind of being done pretty well by Olympic sailors as well. So, people like Burling, Outeridge, Slingsby, Ian Jensen, they were all kind of doing the same thing and mucking about in foiling boats and, filling all their spare time with it around their Olympic sailing. I think it kind of, I think that's kind of it. But there was really only a handful of those guys. I think now there's an awful lot more of this kind of cross sailing that goes on in the Olympic world, where yes, there's the Olympic sailing, but then also there's like the extracurricular activity, which is the foiling dinghy generation as well.
That's what I would say. I would say when I was kind of started out in the America's Cup many moons ago, you sailed and that was it. You sailed for your sailing day and that was it. Whereas the likes of you sail and you Ian Jensen and these sorts, and Dylan Fletcher, who's with us here, you sail and then Dylan goes down the beach and rigs up his moth and goes out sailing some more.
Yeah.
But there you go. Right. Okay. Well, I think we've done enough kind of sort of hardcore Olympic chat for now, and I've got some quick fire questions at you. I want you to think across the whole team. Who do you think in the whole team, across all the medalists, which we've actually got quite a few, who do you think mentions their gold medal the most?
Oh, God.
You could chuck someone under the bus here. I know who I'm going to say.
I need a reminder. of who they all are.
Oh, look at us. We've got so many gold medalists.
Yeah, but I don't know some of the rowers. They've got gold medals, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Harry Leeska's got a silver.
There's no other gold medals, don't worry.
Oi, King Rower over
I'm
here.
going to go Matt
Someone's gotta be.
Gotrel.
No ever gold medalists in rowing on the base. Leeski's got a silver, hasn't he?
He's got a silver, yeah.
Rooster was going to get a medal but rode off
Yeah,
course.
we
don't
talk
talk about that.
No,
We don't
it's
talk
a
about that.
subject.
Yeah, I can well imagine.
So it's these two, Dylan,
So we got
Ben.
Dilbot. Ben's got a few. Hannah, Gooby.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Giles, who
yeah,
else am I
of course.
missing? I think that might be about it.
Xavi.
Xavi Fernandez.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Xavi
How did we
collected
forget
medals.
that?
Sorry, Zav. Oh, Xavi.
Coach Xav, yeah.
Coach Zav.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who do you reckon mentions it the most?
Matt Gotrel.
Ah, yeah.
That's only just
It's
because he started talking about it.
Matt Gotrel. Matt Gotrel. You're going to fire it back
I'm
and say
gonna
Saskia?
go Dilbert, just because I've known him for long enough. I can throw him under the bus.
You've sailed on and off with Dilbert for ages, right?
I never really sailed. We were supposed to start. We were supposed to go 49er sailing together
Right.
when we were like 17. But he's a year older than me, and I was still at school, so I was like, I'm just gonna stay at school for a year. But we trained against each other for the whole time I was sailing anyway.
There you go. Giles, who do you reckon kind of...
Honestly, I wouldn't be able to.
I tell you...
It's like an unspoken
Yeah.
law.
Must
be Ben
of-
Ainsley then.
If you've got a gold medal, don't talk about
yeah,
it.
I know, but do you
come
guys
on.
like cross each other in the corridor, you medalists, and just be like, morning. how you
I don't want
doing?"
to cross Matt Gotrel.
No,
He'd
you
be
don't
like,
cross Matt Gotrel.
go.
That sounds.
No, you're right, actually.
The
You're
person that I
incredibly
know
humble.
who speaks most about gold medals is probably you, man.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. We're going to have a whole podcast dedicated to my back-to-back topper Hailing Island Youth Week
I can't wait for
wins. Yeah, it's going to be real good.
Okay, it must be Ben purely because he gets asked about them the most.
He does,
I'm going to
actually,
guess.
but actually talks about them the least.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
But he has to because he gets asked.
Okay, 10 minutes before you push off the dock, you're getting yourself in that space. What's your song?
Oh man.
Ini
So many.
Kamosi, Here Comes the Hot Stepper.
Oh, that's my
good one.
walkout song at the darts.
I think I remember I had this conversation with
Yes.
your dad actually before London
Yeah.
about what I wanted it to be.
Did my dad know about Ida Kamosi? Here,
Yeah.
here comes the hot
No, I
stepper.
said it was my song, and he was like, I think. Yeah.
Na, 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 na,
Well, we
na,
had one.
na, 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 na. Oh, the rowers actually had one.
Me and you in New Zealand.
Oh, it was.
We used to listen to Jerusalem.
Yeah, we
in the gym.
did used to listen
Oh,
to
wow.
Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Rousing.
It was forced upon others as well.
Yeah, it was.
Are you saying you didn't love it? Are you saying you didn't love it?
It was only because Fred's had his Union Jack budgie smugglers on as well. So that's
Fred.
But I think it sets the like I know it. I know it. I actually know that kind of stuff kind of annoys certain teammates who are senior in the team. But that's just
Not looking at anyone.
without naming names.
Come on, Giles, what's yours?
Mine.
I know the answer to this.
Well, go on.
Well, I remember around the Rio time, like you were big into like Hosier and all of that. Take me to church. Da,
Yeah.
da, da.
I wouldn't have
Whenever
that down.
whenever we've talked about hype songs, they've always been quite chill.
Oh, mine are chill. Yeah, they're almost as far as soppy.
Really?
Oh yeah. Well, I'd say Tokyo Robin, Dancing on My Own.
Whoa,
For Rio.
dude.
What was it? It was something really, really soft. I think it was like it took a revival out of X Factor or something. It honestly, it's
What's all that about, buddy? I find that
He's
intriguing.
still living his like emotional
well, not
teenage life, isn't he?
not everybody needs a pump up and a shout to go out and compete, do they? Other people need to have a bit of a think about it.
I'm pretty stuck in the 80s when it comes to
Yeah, to be honest, Shrekky, whenever you're in charge of the music in the gym, we listen to Billy Joel.
Yeah, Billy Joel. Anything from 80s. Redbone, Come and Get Your Love is probably up there for me.
You can't try and be too trendy with your pump up song.
That's a question.
Okay.
I should really say because I know that mine aren't very trendy.
Wow. Okay. So next quick fire question, although they don't feel like they're that quick fire, to be perfectly honest. Who's the messiest in the team?
Rooster.
Yeah. Matt Roster is
Yeah, he's not
unbelievable.
here at this moment, so
Yeah, no, I had to share a room with him for 5 weeks on cycling camp, and it was like living with my 9-year-old son. It was like, how do you operate as a human being this messy? It
I
was
opened his lock
ridiculous.
the other day and it kind of fell on top of me when I opened the door.
for certain reasons that I won't go into, we were in a hotel room, the two of us, for 5 weeks, riding with the INEOS Grenadiers on a training camp, and we had to get like a whole bunch of scented candles. Like, I'm not going to go into it, but it's pretty savage, to be
That would be
honest.
Giles' sweet spot.
Yeah, pretty savage.
I lived with
Giles. In
Giles.
fact, you're terrible, Giles.
I lived with him briefly, and I think you're quite meticulous around your house.
There you go.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean,
It's been a curve for me. Because you're thinking back to Luna Rossa days here, I know.
but that was
am
when I
thinking
lived with
back to
you
Luna Rossa
that
days.
summer.
After.
Ah, okay.
Luna Rossa days, like, you would lose 6 water bottles a day, your helmet. You couldn't lose the silver wetsuits because they were blinging out. But
yeah, it's fair.
I did enjoy it when you used to leave your helmet on the boat every day.
Yeah.
And the shore crew got so dirty with you, didn't they? But then what happened to teach you a lesson? Come on.
Well, it got my helmet spent a week at the top of a crane
In San Francisco.
in San Francisco. It rained a lot, and there's a lot of grease on
And
the
there
top
was-
of cranes.
and some
And
birds.
also birds.
Some birds
It
nested
turns
on
out.
it. But he never left his helmet on the boat again. He never left his helmet on the boat again. Live and learn. Right, so obviously we're at a moment in time. The 2-boat AC40 stuff is slowed down. In fact, it's stopped. And we are kind of in a bit of a hiatus while we're waiting for RB3. So, Sass, I'll start with you. Like, what is going on right now? What's your there's obviously a lot of Athena Pathway people on site right
Yeah.
now.
So we're 5 of us on site. I think maybe it's the last week of AC40 sailing.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and very kindly, some of your senior sailors are helping us this week to get as much on the water as we can. And the boat moves up to our base just a bit further north, I guess like 10 miles further north, where we're setting up base. And we start building our base from the 1st of April.
Wow.
And so
And you're in Barcelona full time now?
from the 1st of April, pretty much half our team will be in Barcelona full time, yeah. Half of our team are obviously on Olympics Games duty.
Yeah, okay.
So they come August the 18th when they're done.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's basically, so you've got Chris Draper as a coach, Penny Clark as a coach / mentoree person.
Yeah.
And then how many sailors will you be on site when you're all...
We're 12 sailors, I think.
Wow, that's a lot, eh?
Yeah. But so for the first few months, I think it's probably 6 sailors. So we've something like that. I can't quite remember how the divide is. Maybe 8 sailors. So we've got enough.
And you're still simming? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
That's in Weymouth, right?
That's been in Weymouth because that's obviously in the UK. That's where our Olympic base is. And there was kind of a real gravity of sailors that lived there.
Yeah.
So it was really easy to accessible. It's been really useful for, I guess, as we're now doing some time on the boat, you really appreciate why the sim and where the sim is useful and which bits aren't useful.
$1 million question, does it translate well?
For a whole load of stuff it does, and a whole load of stuff it doesn't. You know, so it's been really useful for the ones of us that have come out to Barcelona to then go back to the sim and be like, okay, let's just not worry about that on the sim.
Got it.
Let's just really make sure we're excellent at this bit on the sim because that's the most useful bit to
Okay. And
cross
there'll
over.
be a whole nother episode around Sim World. We're going to get the Sim brains in and talk around that because it's such a colossal part of the campaign, and we'll get you back on and talk about that in greater depth. Giles, where is the INEOS Britannia team at right now? It feels like busy times.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's not quite as busy as we'd initially planned because we were this week was meant to be the last week of 2 boating, but we had a bit of a major one of the boats and that battery fire, which took one of our 2 boats out of use for what is the last 2.5, 3 weeks that we had available. So yeah, we finished off our testing list last week, which was left over as a bit of a mop up from some more learnings that the design team wanted that'll lead into not component parts on RB3, but more the way at which we test RB3 over the coming months. And yeah, a lot of sim time. We've got our in-house sim. It's different to the sim that Sass has just been talking about. So we've
Correct me if I'm wrong. On Friday just gone, you and your little sim squad were in there for about 6.5 hours. I mean, to the point that I got a text message saying Fred's, go to the shop immediately, buy Haribo and Coca-Cola to get the lads through it, which I did because I'm a good guy.
I thought you sat in on the sim sessions on your bike.
Well, sometimes, but I just kind of there kicking about, trying to lighten the mood,
Just there
you
for
know.
morale.
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
just there for morale.
And if you
Morale
can get a
officer.
session in at the same time, then
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
win-win.
yeah. Exactly. Exactly. But that has blown me away how the sim hours right now is.
Yeah, we're trying to get a lot in, and it kind of. I mean, the cup, you always feel like you're cramming, right? It doesn't matter in what area it is, you're always cramming. And the sim's at a place where in previous campaigns for our team anyway, we've certainly had a lot of use out of it in the Auckland campaign, but it's taken a step up, and anywhere from racing simulations to component testing to controlsy stuff. It's it's a big part of the campaign, and I'm sure every team's the same there.
And Trekkie, from kind of a power unit, a Cyclor point of view, we're obviously going back to our sort of Mercedes partners in Brackley next week, but what's going on in your world?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a weird one for us, I guess, because kind of all the like T6, AC40, the two boating stuff doesn't really have much impact on what goes on in our world. We've been 2.5 years really locked away on land training. So for us, it's kind of getting to the crunch point now. We're actually going to get our hands on a boat pretty soon. So I think everything's kind of ramping up, and work in the gym's getting a bit harder, kind of moving away from like the volume stuff that we've been doing over the winter. So yeah, there's a lot of tired faces walking around the gym, but it's been good to get everyone together and on site, and here in Barcelona working hard. But yeah, obviously still got, like you say, we've got still used to the test rig over back in the UK in Brackley to get some good learning done, and hopefully, when the boat hits the water, we'll be ready to go in our area, and fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
How are your rowing teammates? Because obviously you're a sailor anyway, and then you're a rower and a sailor. But this is going to be their first time on a boat.
Yeah,
Proper,
I think
a sailing
I've
boat.
been saying to a few lads, they're in for a bit of a shock. It's probably a bit of an
Hopefully
understatement.
not too much of a shock.
At least I think, I mean, they've sat on the T6 a bit and been around foiling and stuff, which is the first thing to get your head around.
Yeah.
But then
They're in for a shock. They are.
Oh, they
in
were
for a
all really
shock.
excited. Haven't they done their like level 2 in a
Level
three
3.
pads or something?
they've been
Oh,
hit,
level
by a
three.
boom a few times.
Nice,
and,
okay.
Yeah, so they think they've completed it now. There you go. But I think it's going to be full on. It's going to be good fun, but their learning curve is going to be
Ace.
Going to be
pretty
steep.
They're
steep.
going to have a big few weeks.
Yeah.
Those first couple of weeks.
Absolutely,
on the
and
boat,
I
aren't
think,
they?
as we all know, we're lucky enough that we've grown up on the water and we're used to long days on the water. These guys are so fit, you wouldn't believe. They are, I would say, some of the fittest guys in the country, to be honest. But what they haven't done is 8 hours on the water where they're sailing a bit, sitting in the rib a bit, bobbing around. That can be exhausting if you're not used to it.
It can be. I mean, they've done a few days on camera duty for the two boating.
Yeah, that's right.
And every single time they get ashore, it's the same response. It's like, oh, it's a long day. Is that normal? It's like, yeah, mate, that's normal.
It's normal. And you haven't even cycled yet, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? I think that's been quite a nice way to upskill them. They've obviously got the comms on, and they get the comms from both AC40s. So it's like they're immersed in this sailing lingo they've never heard before. And Ryan, a great lad, he said it's like, what's the language learning app? It's like Duolingo.
Yeah.
They're like 6 hours of Duolingo. It's like round up, bear away, sheet on. He's like, oh my God, what are they talking about? Well, I was trying to film it. So maybe that's been like a good little crash course in sailing chat.
Hopefully.
What are the kind of numbers you guys are, if it's not top
secret.
big.
Big odds from you, Matt.
No, we it's interesting. We had a threshold to come and join the team,
Right.
and we thought a couple of years ago, there'll probably be a good few people in the country that can come and hit these numbers, and actually, there weren't. There really weren't, and we've ended up with 4 non-sailing cyclors that can hit these numbers, and man, they've gone beyond that.
3.
Oh, Scully.
Scully.
Scully's a
Three,
Finn sailor.
He is, yeah.
Finn Sailor Union. A lot of Finn
They
sailors.
do
here.
have wings down the corridor.
Yeah.
Finn
Oh,
Sailor
really?
Union,
Do you and
yeah.
Scully have like a nod of
Oh, all the Finn
appreciation
sailors.
because you're? Oh, is there like a Finn Sailor
There must
WhatsApp
be.
group?
There must be.
It's like you, Cornish,
Gov.
Scully, and Gov, like in a
Yeah.
Finn Sailor WhatsApp
Like
group.
a
Yeah,
secret.
yeah.
It's like, hey lads,
Secret
the
society.
rest of those guys don't even know what it's like to hike doing 4 knots upwind like us. because we're cool.
Pulling
does, he's a
100
topper,
pulling
topper
100
champion.
kilo boats
Yeah,
at the beach.
man, I was deadly in my topper. You're a topper sailor, weren't you?
You live in a dream world. Don't you?
What do you mean you live in a dream world? What colour was your topper?
I had a bit pink then red.
Classic. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
two.
you got to have red. Do you have a topper sail?
Oppie.
Oppie? What do
I
you
was
mean?
I crewed
You went straight into a 49er because you're about 6'8"
200,
at 12.
200s, 800s,
Oh, really?
29ers.
4 or 5?
No.
Yeah,
Straight in.
that's way after
My
his
first,
time.
my first like foray into RAA was 29 youth squad.
Shrek's first boat was probably a Flying Dutchman or
Largs,
something like that.
Largs Youth Nationals.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was my first event. And
That's
then,
my first youth nationals as well.
and then
Was it?
Yeah.
And then
Do you remember
Mine
the-
was as well,
then
but it
you-
was 20 years before that.
done a full cycle around the country.
1997 or something.
Do you remember the Lou Youth Nationals?
No, I didn't do it. I was too
Oh,
old.
you didn't do it?
Thanks, Fred. That's made me feel better.
That's awkward, isn't it? I'll leave that story
That was
right
the year.
there. then.
That was the year after I was 19 that year.
How good were the Youth Nationals?
Epic.
Obviously, we're all under 18, so we kind of tempered our behaviour, but God,
I think they were different in your day, mate.
what do you mean in my day? You're only 5 years younger than me. Yeah, but you're new generation, high
New gen,
performance
mate,
mindset.
yeah.
Charles
New
Scott, it's
gen.
good that we got him smiling, isn't it? He's
Yeah.
normally all business.
Little weasel.
Little weasel. Right, we're going to conclude. Stop it, you. We're going to conclude. Like, we sit in this base, obviously proudly sponsored by INEOS, and you can't get away from the fact that grit, rigor, and humour are plastered everywhere, which I quite like. But I think it's a nice opportunity for you to take those 3 words, grit, rigor, and humour, and have a little think about not necessarily an America's Cup story, but a sailing story in general, where you think that word has applied. Giles, try and make it funny. No, in fact,
But it doesn't.
It doesn't
there's
have to be
only
funny.
one part of it's funny there,
yeah,
right?
you are right. The other 2 are not funny. But Sass, I'm going to start with you because he's been
Okay.
quite pedantic right now.
I mean, I feel like Olympic campaigning is it's a continual cycle of nightmare, problem solving, solution,
Right.
next nightmare. So you're
Yes.
kind of spending your whole time doing that. I think probably for me, I guess one of the kind of most, oh, this might not happen moments was in the early part of 2016, and I was really struggling physically and ended up having to have some relatively major surgery in the March, which there was a few different outcomes. Hopefully, the best outcome was keyhole, 6 weeks off. Worst outcome was like a full T incision and
Holy
3
smokes.
months off.
Did not know that.
So we tried to keep it as quiet as possible. We had our team building, and I told our team. Luckily, it was keyhole, so I had 6 months off. But there's a big thing of like, I'm not going to be fit enough to get back to the games. If my recovery takes too long, at some point there's going to be a decision where Hannah's going to get itchy just waiting,
Sure.
And team up with someone else. And how we sort of kept our team together, how the morale of it, the momentum. We had huge momentum at that point. We had won everything the last sort of 6 months at that point, going in as favourites. Luckily, the surgery went really well, and I got back as quick as I could. But it was a huge moment for our campaign, really. And as a 2, as a 3, with Joe, our coach, we really had to dig in and make sure, I guess, all those lessons that had learned from 16 years of Olympic campaigning really came into those 6 weeks.
Yeah, right.
About how we get back on the boat and don't let this be a wobble that implodes our campaign.
That must have been super tough to manage up here.
Yeah, and I mean, we actually came here. Regatta was our first regatta back, and we had no expectation. The expectation was to get round 11 races, maybe not. Maybe do 1 race and come in the afternoon or something, and we won the regatta. And it's kind of like, it's always hilarious, isn't it, when you go into those things with no expectation, how freeing it is, and how you can decision make. I guess you sometimes see it when you get new kids in the Olympic scene, when they've got they were good
Straight out of the
in
blocks.
they were good in 420s or good in whatever they came into, and they don't have any expectation. They don't really know what they're doing, and they are amazing. And then they have an amazing year. They start thinking about everything too much,
The wheels come off.
and you don't see them for 5 years.
Yeah, that's amazing, really.
and just managing that took some grit.
Grit.
Yeah, I got grit.
Grit.
Cheers.
Oh, what?
What is Frank? You can also do gritty.
That's right.
Because
Well, no.
sometimes I do feel like you're a little bit like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh.
I'm
where-
a moment.
You've got your humour.
in fact, he does have gritty humour.
Wow. I think, well, talking about, yes, America's Cup stuff, you got to go back to like our time in Auckland, I guess, and the period from kind of the Christmas Cup.
That was gritty.
Yeah.
That was super gritty.
So just remind us, Christmas Cup for INEOS Team UK as we were then. What did that look like, AD?
Well, I remember the highlight of that event was probably going to a morning briefing and then being told to turn around because there's nothing to say. You just got to go out and deal with what's coming.
Was that the race against Team New Zealand in 6 knots where we knew they were going to foil and we, at that moment, were not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was tough.
We had a it was a chat in the morning, and it was basically a chin up. We're going to take this one.
Yeah.
It's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, we're going
We're
to
going to come. We're going to come back ashore, and we're going to deal with it and fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it wasn't pretty.
It wasn't pretty. We got lapped in that race. But we did unlap ourselves, so technically we didn't get lapped.
There was a bit of humour as well, I guess, in the race when we were like lying around on the foredeck, drifting around in displacement mode in 75-foot falling boats.
It's funny that actually sorry to interrupt. My favourite picture from that America's Cup, and you know me, I love a picture and a story and all of that stuff, was immediately after that race finished. There's a black and white picture that I have of us absolutely laughing our heads off because it was the only way we could deal with it. Anyway, sort of carry on.
That was kind of the humour element, I think, was like almost laughing at the
Very
situation.
British of us.
It's true. There's not many situations that have genuinely been so bad. The only way we dealt with it was to try and see it as funny. It's bad, isn't it? But
Do you remember Lee McMillan lying on the foredeck with his hand like that, looking like he was...
yeah. I mean, it really wasn't funny, but in the moment, it was the only way. It was kind of the only way we could deal with it.
When was that? Was that the last day of that series?
It was last day of the, maybe, was it even the last
couple
day?
of days.
It was like a light day where we knew we had these issues. It was such a clanger, and we were just, the only way we were ever going to win a race that day was if the other boat had a breakdown and didn't get around the course.
Mm-hmm. But then you were packing up for that regatta and coming back.
Yeah,
in 2 months' time.
no, because we were then done at the Christmas Cup,
Yeah, okay.
and then we had an off period, and it basically became this
5 weeks.
Line in the sand
5 weeks.
this line in the sand where the whole team was aligned on what the issues were, where to look at it, and how to fix it, and then the next couple months became about rectifying the issues.
Yeah, it was quite a journey, I think, and like being involved in a team where everyone was like all hands on deck for that bit. Like the amount of work that went in behind the scenes during like the Christmas period to then come back into the round robins, and I think you obviously got a bit of stick for your reaction when we beat the Italians.
I was excited.
It
Yeah.
was French a
Gubsy
little
gave
bit.
me a bit of a French chill out, mate.
But
I couldn't.
after going through that and having the moment like that, I think that was kind of made it all a bit more worthwhile. And then obviously it kept on moving after that. But that period was pretty tough for the whole team. I think we came out of it the other side definitely in a better place.
That was an unbelievable 5 weeks, wasn't it?
But did you know in that 5 weeks that what you were working on was going to be the different? Like, or did you turn out to that first race of the prelims or whatever they're
We
called,
knew we'd got better.
knowing that it was different?
We knew we were in much better shape, but we didn't really know that it was going to be enough.
You never,
I would not have put a penny on us going through the round robin undefeated. And I know there was other circumstances with American Magic having their whoopsie and all of that, but I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
Funny old game, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it is a bit.
You get so few opportunities to like line up with someone.
Yeah, because as a viewer, we have no visibility to all that stuff. So
Until we start
we
doing
just tune in,
podcasts.
think, and especially if you're from an Olympic background or relatively even, you assume that it's relatively even on kit, but it's just not.
Yeah.
And so we're all watching it, obviously trying to come up with our own
Theories.
Yeah.
It was a fight. Proper fight.
We'll bleep that, Cam, shall we? Giles, you? Or are you kind of on board with Shrek there? You feel...
I'm on board with Shrek, but I can have a crack at it.
Go on then.
So grit in my mind is perseverance, right?
Yeah,
Really?
absolutely, yeah.
And rigor is being thorough.
Sure. I think it depends how you want to see it. Yeah, I'd agree.
Well,
with
that's
both
kind of
those
how I
things.
see
Yeah,
it, and
that's fair.
I reckon that I clubbed those two together in off the back of 2012,
Yeah.
where
Reminders didn't get selected.
Didn't get-
narrowly lost to Ben in selection.
yeah, exactly, and then that whole 2016 campaign, which we've kind of talked about earlier, but I think that kind of sums up how I approached that 4 or 5 year period, and actually it rolled over into the cup because through that whole window I was still doing cup stuff, but always my primary focus was back on the Olympics, and I basically just turned myself into a sponge for everything cup wise, and whatever I could take out of the cup and bring back to my Olympic campaigning I would. And to your question earlier about how, like, you know, what do Olympic sailors have to offer the cup, you can swing it both ways. I mean, I certainly did. Being involved at Luna Rossa in those early days of my Olympic campaigning made me approach my Olympic sailing differently. Right. And I definitely came back into the Olympic fold and had a little look around at all of the so-called hard-working Olympic campaigners, and
yeah, okay.
In some instances it was laughable, to be honest.
Right.
And then humour.
He's giving us all three.
He's thought about it, hasn't he?
Well, humour, I was going to talk about the helmet, but we've already talked about my helmet episode where that got hung up for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's been a lot.
It's probably a lot you can't talk about.
Well, that's the other thing. There's
There
a
is a lot.
yeah.
There is a lot. Probably for an after hours podcast that maybe. Or
Yeah,
we
maybe
won't
after
ever do.
hours.
Maybe
and-
do a live one on site, not recorded.
Okay. Yeah.
I remember you getting this very expensive parcel through the post that you were very excited / very pedantic about, with titanium screws for your headboard, for your fin.
Oh.
And you like weighing the difference between
Oh,
them
yeah,
and the
yeah.
stainless ones, and
Yeah, well,
that was the detail, the rigor that Giles was going through
Yeah.
to have less.
Yeah, I was quite keen on little trinkets, but it was a David Howlettism who I worked with in my fin sailing, but he worked a lot closer with Ainsley through his fin sailing campaigns, and it was always the perceived technical advantage was worth way more than the actual advantage. And it's so true.
And the amount of money you'd spent on that tiny
Well, you had
package.
to justify it somehow, didn't you?
I got a good one for humour for you. In Rio, wasn't your boat like sinking every day?
Oh yes, that is a good one.
Yeah, right.
So
you don't want a sinky boat, bro.
I had this really leaky boat, and I flew out
It's
to
the Olympics, mate.
Yeah, it was the Olympics, and it was my favourite boat, but it leaked like a sieve. And I flew out early with Matt and Simon Hiscox, who is also a double Olympic
legend
medalist,
of the sport.
and
Legend
has
of
worked
the
as the bosun for both Rio and Tokyo. Flew out with him early to fix the boat, and we spent like night and day trying to find these leaks. And eventually couldn't find it in all these fittings like you do, bubble testing, pump it up, and didn't get anywhere. Got frustrated, lobbed a bucket of washing up liquid all over the hull upside down, and it was still full of air, and the whole thing just started bubbling up. And the leak wasn't through a fitting; it was
through
just
the
coming
boat.
out of the skin.
That must have put you in a good state of mind for the racing.
So
bud.
Simon then took it upon himself to fix it, and was so bullish and like, yeah, don't worry, it's fixed, it's all good.
He gave
and
you
then
the positives.
full
Yeah,
positive
yeah,
vibes.
yeah.
And he managed throughout the course of the whole Olympic week, he managed to convince me that the boat was not leaking at all. And the way he'd do it was he'd always be there on the slipway to meet me. And I was like, oh, he's being bloody nice, chatty, and helping me pull my boat up the slipway. And then he'd always go, oh, go on, you go and get changed and have a quick feed and come back and we'll have a look at the boat. And in that time I was away, he was sponging it out so that I couldn't see it. Yeah, it was leaking all the way through.
That's epic. Yeah. That's what you need.
Oh,
Yeah, it would have broken me if I'd have known that, to be fair. Good on him.
I love that.
Yeah,
Right.
you won with 20 points clear.
Yeah, didn't you do the medal race, Dusty? Can you confirm or deny? Confirm or deny you did the medal race, Dusty, in Rio?
Can't confirm or deny that, mate.
Well, I know that you would not have done your medal race. So
Oh no.
But then
I
you
actually came to watch your medal race on the beach.
Oh, God, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
And I was pretty dusty then.
Our medal race is actually maybe my least favourite race.
Really?
Maybe second to London's medal race.
And then don't you all jump on a British Airways plane and
Oh,
fly
yeah.
back like super first class? Everyone with medals. Look how amazing we are. Is
I
that a
didn't
thing?
realise quite how like ranked that was. It's literally like,
What do you mean?
well, I was in the front of the bus is the most.
Giles.
It's
the most
very
medals.
elitist, that flight
Yeah.
back.
Were
Yeah,
you flying?
it's awkward.
Yeah,
But all you three must have been up
I
front.
didn't think you were there.
I was upstairs.
Okay.
Look at
Yeah, well, no, because like the downstairs, right at the front,
The
first
first was full.
is like
That many medals.
multiple medalists.
Well, hockey girls won as
Ah,
well.
of course
Yeah.
they did. We had a good
They did.
Olympics
And then
there.
also you all there from there, and then you go back to economy, and then you got everyone else just sat there like
Did
Yeah,
you send
to
any
be fair,
champagne
it
back
was,
to the non-medalists?
they ran out of booze. I came down with a few things. It's pretty tough.
But I remember we were in there with Max Whitlock, who had just won his 2 gold medal,
Yeah.
like
And
really
he's back
young
competing
athlete.
now.
Yeah, and I remember three of us were talking, and I remember you being to him like, "Have you got any idea what's about to happen when you land?" And he's like, He must have been like 18 or something.
Yeah.
And
Proper little weapon. That
yeah,
lad, isn't
yeah, he's amazing. Yeah.
he? He is amazing. God, I feel like we got proper off script
But
there when we
quite a
started
lot of
talking about
the
Lash.
athletes. There was a cyclist in front of me, and
me a name, or
he,
can you not?
I do remember his name.
Oh, you're going to give us the name.
Callum. And I
Scott.
think, yeah, he
was so
he was
dusty.
done. Yeah, he like literally got on. I must go on.
Really?
And we were all
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
"Do you want to?" Actually, he's like, "Done, finished."
Really?
He's
Just
had a week.
He'd completed Rio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I wish I'd tried harder at my topper sailing, but there might have been a little lack of talent, to be honest, but there you go.
I don't think so, friends.
No, it's not for me. Not for me.
It's like Giles said. It's
I'm
all
sure
about timing.
It's all, yeah. It's
time of the
True
bounce.
story.
So winning the America's Cup will top any gold medal.
Oh,
friends.
don't.
There you go.
Shrekky, don't. Unreal. Right, I think that's us. I feel like we've done an Olympic/golden episode. I want to thank you all so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your stories and how that translates into kind of what we're going to be up to this summer. We've got an absolutely manic 6 months. As you know, with the podcast, we're going to take you on the journey. We're going to have incredible guests. So I invite you to like and subscribe the podcast because they're going to be coming out regularly. As for the first time ever, we're going to lift the lid on America's Cup sailing and show you what happens in these vital months building up to the racing. And follow us also on our social media streams as well. So, yeah, guys, thank you again. You're all going to be coming back on the podcast before the racing starts, whether you like it or not. So,
Really?
Giles, save. Yeah. Well, you've had a nice time, haven't you?
Not you, Giles.
You've had a nice time, I can
Yeah,
tell.
it's been
And
great.
Shrek, you were very upbeat.
Oh no, I'm feeling all right today.
Oh, that's
day.
good. And Saskia, you were the rose in between two thorns, to be
Thanks.
honest. But no, it was hugely appreciated. And yeah, make sure you like and subscribe and join us on the next Inside Tack.